The regular committee of the whole to order March 13th at 6:02 p.m. Start with the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
Carr. Here. Alderman Roll.
Here.
Alderman Johnson. Alderman Montoya. Alderman Rita. Alderman Fairwell.
Here.
Alderman McGee.
Present.
Four, Your Honor. Four Alderman.
Quorum two. Alderman Johnson's walking in. I got a text from Alderman Montoya and Rita both wanting to give this late. So we'll start, and I'll skip to the mural discussion since he's here. That's E, mural proposal. I see that you got your kids with you, so do me a favor, put you right at the beginning. You ready? Are you ready?
I'm ready. Okay. I'm gonna have my son pass out, my proposal and pamphlets as well as the renderings for going out the board. And here's some stuff that my son's also gonna bring. My name is Kristen Panya. I'm a Blue Island resident before Clark was in Eisenhower. My sons are bringing some stuff. I'm gonna show you, what I've done in the past. Again, Luke, if you could give those proposals, that'd be great. So here's some more stuff I've done on the back page is the actual rendering. Took me 9 pictures to actually get this in order. Those are some of the books I'm in. I'll make this short. You've seen my work hopefully before at Demosthenes. Some of that stuff is in Seattle. In Seattle, I have a sculpture that's still on the Pike Place Market. That picture is of me on the front page of the Chicago Tribune. I don't know many artists that are actually on the Chicago Tribune. I've been doing this since I was 25 years old. So I just finished the Bada Bing mural, and I also finished the mural at Haas Tavern. I am about 10 seconds away from finishing the iconic Beverly Records mural as well, that will have many famous people from Blue Island, Nubs and Nub, Demals. We're trying to get Styx and a bunch of crazy Chicago bands, Billy Corrigan, to come and take a picture. With that said, the square footage of this mural is 149 feet by 18 feet. That the total square foot is 2,682 square feet. Now, a typical mural, an average per se mural at $15 an hour would be $40,230. Murals that I would typically price, it'd be $25 a square foot, and that'd be $67,050. I'm not asking for this, not at all. I am a Blue Island patriot. I'm hoping to buy a house in Blue Island. My kids have been hanging out at Memorial Park all summer long. Creating Blue Island is a destination point, not just for me and my boys, to live here. And this mural is going to help impact a lot of that. I know what's going on in Blue Island. There's a lot of fantastic things going on in Blue Island. Again, I'm asking basically a set under $25,000. So with that said, you see my work, you have everything in front of you. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions for the artist? He's proposing very large mural on one of the sides of West Germany Bridge. In the picture, you can see it's pretty ugly. It's the only side of the bridge that's been tagged up and painted multiple times. The rest of the bridge is still natural concrete. So we picked that site as probably the best start to start hiding all the ugliness on the blank wall. And it's right off Broadway in Western, where it can be seen by many people. I wanted to send this to council because I wanted to get your input because it's quite large. Not like the other ones we've done are pretty small.
Is the picture of the back?
Yes, sir.
Alderman?
Nice idea. Will it be somehow treated or coated because if it gets tagged again, is it going to be?
Yeah, so, well, okay, so let me get, the wall is clean up already, all right? So that's gonna help with nature and the environment. I'm using the best paints out there. And I do coat every one of my murals 4 times at the very least with a clear coat.
Okay.
Now, if it's tagged, no one really tags a mural like that. They see that it's art. They don't see that it's a wall, a blank wall for their feet. But with that said, it can be scrubbed. 4 coats is a lot. It really is, and it also helps with the sun as well. This mural, this coating should last longer than my life.
And I know the Mexican American mural that was there for since the 70s, and the one that replaced it has never been tagged now. Throwing out the jinx right now, that's never been tagged right now.
Maybe we could, get your help if it did get tagged.
You know, hopefully I'm gonna move here. You know, I mean, I do live here, but buy a house, so yes.
Alderman John.
Yeah, so on the back of that mural, I mean, back of the page with the mural. And, it featured, I guess, the years per se of Blue Island. But knowing that Blue Island now is divided in almost a third of Hispanics, whites, and blacks, I didn't see no brown and black folks.
Well, here, of course not, because I'm not there yet. This is just the rendering. So with that said, everyone in the rendering, like major areas of it, like the trolley, it'll be blue. You know, adding, I can have pictures of every type of ethnicity that I would definitely put in.
Questions?
I know, honestly, I think this is great. I know you did some of the north side of Blue Island and the south side. I'd like to see this continuing throughout the entire Blue Island. Obviously, there's many other spots. Yeah, I think this is a great start, again, because it does help with less tagging, especially like.
I'd like the next place to be the, bridge at Vermont Street.
You see it's actually out here.
Yeah.
Chris, you want to just mention your thoughts on that? We're far from it, but
Okay, we are, so,
it's gonna be more expensive.
I had an idea to make, Van Gogh's, Starry Night on the north side of the bridge, and then even put mosaics as part of the Starry Night, go in it, then paint the top to move into the other side, the south side of a rendering. That wouldn't be so much Starry Night, but it'd be a really cool idea that we all come up with, we all think about it, you know, but that, Mr. Bellato and I had talked, about, having that as a Starry Night. It would be an iconic, well, we have people going over to Demosthenes, coming from the north side, coming from all over Chicago, taking pictures of the Demosthenes mural. Also understand too, if you guys want to promote this stuff later, T-shirts, postcards, you know, we can talk about that. You know, I am willing to help Blue Island every way, shape, and form that I can.
Consider yourself more of a muralist or
I'm a sculptor. You're here. If you walk into the Museum of Science and Mystery, this is the great thing about my life. When my boys walk into any mural in Chicago, we just walked into the Shed Aquarium, and the boys saw, what did I make? Rocks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all the rocks along the dolphin here, 1997 or something like that. Then you go to the Field Museum, all the tiles made by the bathrooms are done by. Then you go to the Field, MSI, Museum of Science and Mystery. 75% of those murals are mine that I've done growing up. The Macy's Marshall Fields trumpets, I made those. So I just want to say that, yeah, and coming back to Blue Island, you can see people knowing all over what we're doing here and what you guys are doing here. I'd love to be more a part of it, you know?
Last thing, maybe you thought of this too, maybe in the future for another mural, continue this way. Maybe, incorporating some local artists to Blue Island, murals, just a thought.
Here's, and I agree with you 1,000%. I've tried to use local murals, and I do plan on trying to get Bertie Eisenhower as well as some college students to help out with this. So if I make it a paint by numbers, it'd be great. Here's the bad thing. I do so much detail on this that sometimes I go too steps forward and take 2 steps back. You know, it's like, so I understand every one of the architects I've used in the past, COVID destroyed my business. It destroyed 13 architects. Of the 13 I used, 10 are either dead and 3 are retired. So it's me starting over again. So, but, and even the artists I use.
I didn't necessarily mean this one, maybe like another.
No, but I do agree with you 1,000%. Like me to incorporate some of the local participants, artists, and go from there.
I I would be interested in possibly a sculpture. He's already.
Well,
Ideas.
the mayor and I
I'm
thought
trying
about
to, I'm
this.
trying to be conservative in a certain way where we're doing one at a time.
Yeah.
But if we let Mr. Campagna run with it, he'd be doing 10 different sculptures and 50 different murals all at the same time.
And, well, I think this is a good way to do it.
I like finishing one and starting one
I
at the
think
same
that's the way to
time.
go. Yep,
All right. Alden?
Pardon me for being late, I apologize.
Ms. Rita, it's okay.
Did you say how much?
Yes, I did keep it numbered. It's $2,499.99. Oh, I'm sorry, 24,000. Yeah.
I was gonna say that too.
Yeah, I know.
You can start.
I do have to, my kids, yes, exactly.
Any questions? All right, so, the administration will be in contact with you. I know the fire department already helped you out.
Yep.
To get started, so you have to work on the weather now, and like you did with Jamasties, keep us posted. I know you'll do a very good job, keep us posted every day.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
I'm gonna collect my stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, you can keep those.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Any other things?
We used to, me and Mr. Fairwell, was thinking of keeping this pig and eating breakfast.
So the city of Blue Island, city of Seattle made, this pig is actually a sculpture on the Pike Place Market wall. It's a neon sign. Yeah, so it's still there, made in 2000.
Yeah.
They made 10,000 of it. Only like 3 left. So, but yes, thank you.
Yeah.
That's just.
All right.
Good.
So I'll move back to the agenda. There'll be a resolution in this meeting regarding certain executive session minutes that'll be reviewed, hopefully given already chance to review them again in today's executive session. B, resolution of the City of Blue Island, County, Illinois, request for proposals for the sale and disposition of city-owned properties. Not a lot on here, if you look in the packets. These are all vacant lots with the exception of 1859, which is the former Anchor Bowl. So 1859 is Anchor Bowl, 2, 3, and 4 are vacant lots where we recently tore down homes. So we're putting out the bid, see if anything comes in, notify the council. Well, they're open at the council, so we'll see what comes in. That's all we are able to sell, even though we tore down other homes. And as a reminder, how the process works, it's a detriment to the community where it's a safety issue. We can tear them down, but then we have to put a lien on the property for the cost of demolition and go through the whole process of foreclosing on the lien. And sometimes it takes several years to take ownership of the vacant property. So these we finally got ownership for, so we're going to put them out to.
Do you know what bids are? So it's other government companies.
We did.
Let's go to the council still on that. All right. Any questions regarding that? Yes.
So you're trying to sell the bowling, right?
Well, we put it out before, we have to put it out again. We have discretion to advise it. Other questions? That, we go on to parking regulations. So ordinance for the city of Blue Island, amending chapter 72 parking regulations for the city of Blue Island. How that Aaron and Alfred Rita have discussed this along with the administration. Want to give it a summary of it?
Sure. It's just provide temporary non-resident parking permits, a clear, description of what that is and who it would be allowed to. So basically, people that are coming in as caregivers for a few months, or someone's coming in to help an elderly parent, for a few months, that will be parking in front of the house. They don't want to receive tickets, so they would be able to come into City Hall and get a temporary non-resident parking permit. And Alderman Rita had said that this had been implemented previously in the city of Blue Island, so I looked at that old ordinance, just took a lot of the language from that.
Questions? Okay.
Sorry, it will be like a placard there from the dashboard, right?
Cardboard placard.
Yeah.
We'll probably do different colors like we did building permits now, so you don't hold there. Have city application, that we're gonna review, or you guys can review for future Class A tax, incentives. And it's, put together by the attorney and the administration, looking what other towns do. The big question I had, obviously, it's just an application, but other towns, and I'm sure the attorney can explain it, they have a fee to take the application, and I want to get the council's opinion on that. I personally am not in favor of any large fees, but there's some towns that are charging like $10,000. So I don't want to give.
I would say the average is probably 4,000 to 6,000 for what's charged. You know, there's a lot that goes into it administratively. You're receiving all the paperwork, reviewing it by multiple departments, et cetera. I know that this administration was not set on such a high fee, so in the application you have in front of you, which is our draft, they, it's a $1,000 non-refundable fee, which is probably one of the lowest.
So does, I'm sorry, Councilman. So does that like equate to like a man hour or, you know, input for, you know, to make this happen? You
Yeah, it's
think
an
that-
administrative fee, but it's significantly lower.
But it covers it though. is
Yeah,
what I'm
definitely.
Should, because most of the homes, obviously attorney review, that's almost $1,000 there probably, if you actually break it down. Administration salaries and time billing departments, I would say $1,000 would be breaking even.
Okay.
That's where we threw that out there as a break even point.
Yeah, so thank you very much. This is, what I'm, all in the role and I have been very interested in having, and I really like the fiscal impact, section of it. I haven't been in great detail, but it seems like it really goes to what we're hoping to have. So, thank you for that.
I think the administrator had a lot to do with it. Well, I can take all the credit.
Are there any other questions regarding this? And to, we did the mural appropriations. So who would like to start? I believe Tom probably.
That's important.
I appreciate it. We took water, but.
Well,
So, all right, so you have, well, kind of the administrative final draft, I guess we'll call it, of the 2024 appropriations in front of you. I'm going to turn it over to Alderman Roll here in a minute with, once again, done some, more advanced data modeling around this, just toying with it, before I came over here. And it's pretty cool. So, Alderman Roll do his presentation, but just a few just administrative from a more 1,000-foot level, a few just administrative comments about the appropriation document in front of you right now. As we had talked about when the draft was introduced to you, we intend to, in this budget, keep a little more consistency from last year to this year. As you know, this new administration came in, we had a lot of stuff we had to even out and get it right. And it led to us having to make some more aggressive changes to certain accounts, certain things like going to the ALS and the fire department, things like that. Vehicles, our staffing situations, all those things that have led to kind of larger increases. So we think this is a little bit more stabilized year-to-year appropriation, as you'll see. That said, there's changes every year, there's different investments every year. Rather than go into any real deep dive specifics about, say, you know, as a good example, streets and alley program, which is going to be very soon here. Some of the streets and alley program, that money exists in the general fund. Some of it exists in the motor fuel and tax fund, the MFT fund. Some of it, depending on where the projects are, might come out of the TIP. Every project, especially large projects, we have different. It's all accounted for in here, but you're not going to see a single line that says here's the $2.5 million for streets and alleys this year. It doesn't break out that.
Curb and gutter, sewers, come water, sewer fund.
So, yeah, so exactly. So if you do have some more specific questions about, hey, how are we paying for this one large ticket item? And the answer is a little more complicated. That's what Lauren Fulgrad from Kasperick and Co. is here. They're our CPA, and she plays a very big role in putting this document together and keeping track of all of our various and multiple changes coming from all different directions. So again, we have sought to have some consistent spending, but also, and as we talked about, what we're seeing here is as this year, as last year, we intend to be active. We intend to get after problems that this city faces. We intend to get after them in a way that's going to have a positive effect on the residents. So we do again prioritize street and alley and sewer work as our biggest spending priority. That said, we also are still trying to prioritize as much as we can, changing as many of our water meters to the new meter system as we can. Streetscape, we're we're gonna be rounding third on the final touches on Old Western Streetscape. And we'd like to then continue the beginning steps of similar streetscape efforts up into traditional Western Avenue. One change that's new to this year, your draft includes reflections of unrestricted cash balances in each account. The purpose of this is to give you a more complete picture of when we envision what we're gonna spend, how we're gonna spend it, what the actual numbers we're using. In the past, the models that we've used have really only showed appropriation and an actual spending previously, and was not reflective of the money that we do have in the bank, which is obviously whatever you're spending, whether it's for a city or your home or yourself or anything else, what you have in the account is going to account to what you can afford. And so the main reason we do that is as you get to say page 2 or sorry, page 3, in the second to last section there, where it's a total of all city funds, you'll see that the total expense appropriation is 50.1 million, the total revenues are 4 to 4.6 million, with a gap in there of 5.4 million. But what then we account for is that we have about $17.6 million across various funds in unrestricted cash. Now that 17.6 is broken out in different ways. You see 3.1 of it is in general fund. This is the unrestricted cash is going to be the last line in each section of the summons. So we have 3.1 million unrestricted cash that we come in with the year. And so you see our sort of spending priorities there where we have appropriate 23.3. We have total revenues of 22.1. There is a $1.1 million gap in there, but we have a $3.1 million reserve, right? So also, just as a reminder, we do this every year, and we'll talk about this is an appropriation. It's not a traditional budget. It's an appropriation which allows for an expenditure, right? So we have certain things in here where if we're aiming to get a grant, we include the potential grant funds in revenue, and then we include the expenditures in wherever that is, right? Wherever it's appropriate. If that grant comes through, we'll have the authority to execute. If it doesn't come through, we don't. Right, so, and then some brief revenue highlights that I just wanted to touch on. We are seeing some revenue and one expenditure highlight I want to touch on. We are seeing some uptick that I think is reflective of good staff work and good decisions made here at this council level that then are getting implemented. So for example, at compliance court, just so we're all familiar, revenues start to get reflected on page 4 in the tiny print. So page 4, 5, and 6 are revenues. Everything else after that is expenditures. So you'll see, and I know some of this needs a magnifying glass. That's why all of the roles tools I think are a little more easy to use than this. But compliance court, we saw an uptick in revenue. We had planned 55,000. We wanted to get close to 85,000. Parking violations, we saw a jump in. Building violations, we saw a sizable jump in. Building violations and almost tripled. Permit fees were up considerably. And then golf, we were up overall, and also in golf, we only had half a season with our new director. He's here, actually, with Powers here. We only had half a season with our new director, who already implemented some changes that had a positive effect last year. And then we're going to be implementing some new changes. So I think we're going to see a continuing uptick in revenues in golf as we implement. So I think they have a pretty good plan there. And also there's just some things with golf as a retail operation. We have to do some things around increasing cost to reflect for the 20% increase in food and alcohol wholesale that we're serious and stuff like that. Yes, sir.
Are we looking into like grants in order to enhance that, the golf area for the golfers and things to try to reflect on bringing more customers in and, beautifying, making it at least where we could be.
I think we're always in pursuit of grants, and I think we do have some, even outside of grant funding, I think we have some strategies to increase the amount of golfers, the amount of paid per golfers that we have going through there. I would encourage, maybe the three of us can do this after the meeting, you maybe with Mike to have some conversations around that, because Mike does have some pretty good ideas on this.
Yeah.
All right, so, couple areas where we are
I just got done bragging about staff performance, now some administrative areas that we're going to be working on this year, some areas we're looking for ourselves for some improvement. You'll see on here that our water sales lag, we are addressing it, and I don't want to get into a long detailed conversation about our water system here, because I could go on for an hour. But a lot of this really boils down to what we're doing to track and limit our water loss and to improve our meter reading and billing systems, both of which have some upgrading to do. A lot of this is just we inherited a very, very antiquated system. And so we are working through that, but we did see a lag there, and it's something that Mark and I specifically are very honed in on. But on the plus side of that, we saw almost to what we lagged in water law or in water billing, we saw an almost even increase in penalty collection. And that's just day in, day out staff work to do penalty collection. And both all the ladies in the water clerk's office, myself, Mark, we work on it pretty much daily and weekly, where we are chasing bad accounts, and we've been really aggressively trying to tackle our large bad actors, 5 to 6 figure bad actors. Made it right about some. And that's about it on my list. So that is the about administrative overview. I can do 1 or 2 things. I can take your questions now, or we can let Alderman roll with his presentation, and I can come back up.
I think we can help them roll into the presentation.
You can me the screen share on the Zoom meeting. If we have somebody administrating.
We turned the lights on a bit, so that's in the room.
Would be a problem.
You guys want to move around, go ahead. Oh, I.
So as in years past, we've prepared some analysis of the proposed budget, but then also incorporated some spending data as well. And so the focus here is really to look at the proposed expenditures for the new budget compared with last year's budget as well as last year's spending. The difference with this year, though, is that these are now part of a full solution. So this regularly receives financial updates from Smart Fusion, which is our financial system. And where those analyses are sort of one-offs, these can be shared now with city staff or elected officials. So if there's an interest in, being able to review this on your own time, please let me know. They can now be shared. In addition to some of these detailed tools that have been built, which these can be useful for city staff, in the day-to-day. It also includes the chance to include something like this, which this is just an example, but it is using last year's 2023 data for the city of Blue Island. This is an example of like an informational dashboard that we might be able to integrate in the website just to give the public sort of a running tab on how the city is spending its money. So again, just an example, this is something where, we'll go through a design process with city staff. But the goal is to get this public facing portal integrated this year. And then the last thing I'm going to show too is this includes a FOIA request portal. So, even if this is just something that is given to city staff or ultimately that we incorporate into the website, the goal here is that this puts all of our financial information in a format that's readily accessible. It can be filtered, searched, and again, allow just for very fast turnaround time on FOIA requests, which I know is usually a pretty big time sink for city staff. So It's been a long time coming, so just wanted to let everyone know that we finally sort of made this a true solution. And I'll be donating it to the city, for perpetual use. All right, so this is just a look at multi-year analysis and just to put the sort of proposed budget of 49 million in spending, into historical context. It's pretty much in line with the last 2 years at about 48 million appropriated. Right now, we're looking at, I think we have 2015 all the way to the end of last year here. So at the top right, it's just sort of a trend line of revenue in green, expenses in red. So you can see during the pandemic, expenses dropped off quite a bit. But since then, they've kind of climbed to historic highs. But still revenue. Below that is just a quick snapshot of our annual surplus or deficit. And so, you know, when Administrator Wogan talks about the cash that we have available on hand, this is that legacy. You know, the city has been basically taking in more than it spends for most years now for the recent past. The two visuals on the left are just a quick snapshot of where expense has grown. So at the top is by department. So what this means is that from 2015 to now, the water department is where we've seen the greatest increase in expenses. And then below that is sort of the same thing by vendor. We don't need to spend a lot of time here unless there's anything, you know, in particular somebody wants to look at. But, you know, these are interactive, right? And so if we click just on the water department, now we can see specifically, you know, the revenue and expense trend for just the water department. So again, you know, even though it's where we've seen the highest growth, most of that is recent. We can see in the timeline that expenses actually dropped off for several years before climbing higher in the last couple of years. And I think a lot of that just accounts for specific investments in vehicles and infrastructure. Any questions on this or anything in particular that anyone wants to see before we kind of move to the more pointed budget? And of course, if anybody wants me to stop or spend more time on some of this study, yeah.
Tip 5.
Tip 5. Sure. So again, you know, this you can see that expenses have stayed pretty low, especially the last few years, and really only in the last year have we really sort of spent out of Tip 5. And then the green line shows that with only a couple years exception, more money has been going into the TIP than being taken out, at least by the city wide. And then you can see in the bottom left, the darkened sections show the vendors. So, you know, we have Tip 5 highlighted, but most of that over the time period went to Burke at 2.5 million, but then also Gallagher Asphalt and the state treasurer. I think that's for set maintenance.
Is there something that shows our revenue shot up so much?
So I can chime in on that one.
Yeah.
There was a appeal for the hospital, I believe, in 2022. So there was a large amount that was billed over the county for the yeah. So last year we really didn't see any revenue from Tip 5 for property. People say that your only revenue is your property taxes. But once that got, you know, paid back to the county, we started getting something. So that's the one.
So now, you know, since the hospital I thought funded that mostly.
Mostly, yes. But now we are still getting property taxes from other entities. I haven't looked exactly what pins we're getting money from, which I can, you know, look a little deeper into that one, but that's what came in 2023 was property taxes.
Anything else before I move on to the budget?
No, thanks.
Yeah. All right, so this next one focuses primarily just on last year, and the red bars over on the far right are indicators of where we overspent versus what we appropriated. some of them are really large, and this is usually just where we didn't appropriate any, but did have some expenses, but right away, so the top three are all TIF funds, so I don't know if the administration just wants to speak quickly to TIF expenses, but those, you know, at a department level, really are really the only places that we overspent the appropriation significantly.
Yeah, I think I would just say, you know, we certainly can ID any of these expenses, but these very large percentages you're seeing, careful with percentages. As you'll see, you'll have, some of these tip areas where we had, say, a few $100, or in some cases, only a few dollars allocated, and then like $500 expense or something, that's it, and it winds up looking like a very large percentage increase. So for example, the operating transfer out on tip two operations, we would certainly be able to tell you, what that $3,000 is, but because the $3,000 expense hit, and it didn't have anything allocated to it, in the appropriation, it comes off as a $3,000.
To give you a perfect example, 123rd Street by the train station is a half a block that we did because Rock Island Metro asked us to repave that. That only half a block was in a TIF, and they agreed to pave 100 feet of that street, so we jumped in and paved the other 200-300 feet out of that TIF. It was 30 grand, whatever it was. It was not a lot of money, because it saved us money in the long run. It probably wasn't appropriated because we weren't planning to do it.
So yeah, we look at what we should be, you know, concerned about. You'll see that the red line is there as an example, and probably this is for it. I know area where you see this, where it's a 50, 60, 90% increase. Usually what you have is, you know, relatively small dollars. And not, you know, kind of very large impact. As you see, some tip areas have much larger dollar amounts where our spending tends to stay between, you know, 40 to 60, 80%.
And then if we flip it around and sort of look where we really underspent compared to what we appropriated, and I don't know if, you know, that's part of this, but the business district, for example, was a department that we appropriated 3.2 million, just about but only spent about 400,000. So it's some of that what ultimately came from tips, like the streetscape appropriation that we allocated 2.5 million, but only spent 180,000.
And some water and sewer that we weren't planning to spend, we did while we were doing it. So it went across multiple funds, open roads, right?
One thing I had a question on that stood out to me, and Lauren was starting to explain with the police and fire pension operation. So, Carol, sort of expand those. So again, we had allocated a large amount to spend towards those, $3 and $2 million between police and fire respectively. But I think there's some lagging revenue that is earmarked for those. But again, that was another area where we very much underspent what we had originally appropriated.
So so I just pulled my computer up so I can pull in. So the thing with the police and fire pension fund is that money it's kind of a wash to the city. There's a revenue and there's an expense. And it's the revenue that we levy for the property taxes that then gets spent, you know, paid to the pension funds as our contribution. Because that money is, you know, never really seen by the village, it's always been, or from the city, it's always been just like a year-end entry that we put on the books as a revenue and an expense. We're in the process of getting the books ready. That's actually a journal entry that's in the queue, to be put in. The revenues for, police was 3.1 million, which means the expense will also be 3.1 million. And the fire is 2.1 million. Once again, the expenses will be 2.1 million. So you will see that that's just kind of a complete and full wash on the books. Because the money just goes straight from the county to those pension funds.
Yeah,
So the amount that we appropriated for or earmarked for did actually go into the pension
Yeah.
fund. Because it
So-
looks like it may have not have, right?
Yes, correct. And if you look at your appropriation ordinance,
Mhm.
the day that I was trying to get it into the books, I was doing it late at night, and it was one of the days that the accounting system was doing one of their updates. So, I made the adjustment on the ordinance so that what got approved reflected that. It just wasn't in the accounting system, which was what, Alderman Moore said.
So, you know, right now it shows expense matching revenue at about 37 million. And so once all that clears, it should still be a wash, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, everything in those pension funds are washed.
Yeah.
Any other questions while I'm here?
Yes.
Oh,
So are we up to par
Right.
with both pensions?
so we have levied what is, requested of us for the pension. Now, what comes into play there is the collection rate. So the city's doing, their part to help the situation. The collection rate is what kind of varies, and that's something that the city just doesn't really have any control over. But the city is doing their part in making sure the pensions are getting what they're needing.
So you're saying that they caught up and not?
Well, okay,
Or catching up.
I was gonna say, catching up would probably be the most accurate, I mean, to fund 100% overnight is just something that no municipality could do, because there was a huge lag for a lot of years.
Right.
I
So-
understand that.
So we are doing our part to help catch up, but I mean, I don't remember what the exact funding percentage you guys are at, but the actuaries end up telling the city, we recommend X amount, you're minimally required to do. We're doing what we have to do, be recommended and help fix the trend.
Let me stop, because I think there has been some discussion at the civil service level, in relation to, is the city funding police and fire pensions at the appropriate level? And this is a debate that happens a lot, mostly between administration and the respective. Right? So we get a requested number from the pension system to say, based on X amount of retirees, et cetera, here's what we would like you to pay, right? We pay that. That goes back to the state and it's processed back eventually to the systems and they make changes. Property taxes, there's equalization changes. They make changes and then what ultimately gets back to the pension systems, winds up being a little bit less. So the city is doing, it's meeting its request.
Right, that really, wasn't the question, but I thank you for that. The question was, I knew that we were behind in money was taken from the pensions to administrations ago.
Right.
And I was just asking where that, where we're at right now with it,
For the last 4 or 5 years, we've done a few percentage points above the minimum levy amount. And we consistently
We
kept
have to try to make
that. Yeah.
We have to try to make up for the fact that it was underfunding.
Right, and that was my
But what
question.
you're describing is just underfunding,
Okay,
right? So we're trying to make up for that.
and that's what I was asking, where we're at, right there.
I think what Alderman Johnson was referring to, I think that was right, maybe when I first became alderman. And it was a really big deal because there wasn't any money being put into the
That's
police,
correct.
right? Isn't that what you're referring to?
Yes,
So we
That was,
then,
and that was before we were here, so I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh, yeah.
So-
yes, it was huge.
No, so hopefully that is.
So we're working on it.
You're working on it, yeah.
So again, I think, at a department level, we really stayed within budget, but is there anywhere the administration wants to spend some time or focus? Or is there any particular department or fund that anyone here would like to drill into further? Otherwise, I can move on to the budget comparison.
Any questions, before we move on? All right, Alderman Rowe.
All right, so this last one looks a lot like the old one. It's a little bit busier, but mostly, again, this is, we're focusing on just comparing the proposed budget to last year's. This column here that says budget change, is basically sorting again at a department level where the proposed budget changes most year over year, from last year. So, at the top is the Department for Motor Fuel Tax Operations, which is increasing by almost $1 million. And then at the very bottom is Public Works, which are decreasing by a similar amount. Again, is there anywhere the administration wants to sort of focus in initially, or is there anywhere that anyone here in particular would like to look at? I think for the public works, we can drill into that and believe it's vehicles that accounts for
Yeah.
a lot of that.
Yeah, well, works out,
We bought a lot of stuff.
we were very much playing.
Catch up.
We were very much playing catch up on public works vehicles. I tried to talk a little bit more detail about what we got, and everything, but those are large, one-off businesses.
Yeah, and all up, again, it's only about $1 million more this year in the appropriation, 3% change. So it really is, you know, very similar to last year's. For motor fuel tax, you know, again, the red bars here, just like the last page, show us where we did significantly overpay. So like River, for example, it looks like we did not budget for salt to be paid for out of it last year that we did spend. And now we've, it's one area that this particular department, the funding has gone up. And I guess I'm guessing this is a question that even though we did not pay for street and resurfacing repair out of this department, to the extent that we allocated last year, it does look like because we've increased it to 3.29 million that we are anticipating paying for street resurfacing out of this one, out of this department.
Yeah, so the plan for this year, so the city, you know, over the last several years has received Rebuild Illinois money to be used for, you know, streets. And so this year, we're working with the engineers to do what we have to do to release, not, I don't want to say release systems, but legally access those to pay for the streets this year. So we're working with Burke Engineering. So you guys have the money in hand. We're just going through the approval with IDOT to use it for the road program.
John?
Yeah.
Two questions here. One, the budget change, so is that is really from appropriation last year to the appropriation this year, or is it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so, and just from my perspective, I find it more useful to take a quick look at what we actually spent versus what we budgeting this year.
Yeah. I was gonna ask
That's
that
all
too.
on here, yeah. So if you look at
We do that, right?
the expenditures column is what we spent last year,
Wait a minute, where at?
expenditures column. So
Third column there.
the first column is the last year's budget. The second one, expenditures, is what we spent last year. And that third one with the red bars shows
So
where
this
we,
one right here.
yeah, that shows our spending from last year. And then you have the proposed budget and the change. So there's a lot going on there, Bill, but it's
you
all
could
that information is on.
Do that comparison.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and so I can share this with you and, you know, again, there's a lot to take in, but
Right.
all that is there to compare.
Okay.
Right, so the next second department on the list with the most change was Gen Gov. It looks like the lion's share of that was for building maintenance and repair, which we've added about $500,000 to. If I forgot what that was for, I apologize. But
Wait a minute, where are you at?
so under Gen Gov, I'm looking at the top
Oh,
account, which is building maintenance. and
Oh, I see,
repair.
okay.
Yeah,
That was for windows and other building repairs for City Hall.
okay. And then abandoned house expense, we allocated 100,000 last year, but did not spend out of it, but we have boosted it by another 275,000 this year. So I don't know, again, if that's just
This is for the Strong Communities Program grant fund that we received.
oh, okay.
We demolished 4 houses already. We plan on demolishing approximately 10 more this year, so.
Okay.
Just want to make sure we don't get it.
And then some for police and fire, and I'm happy to drill into any of those, but I did want to go down to public works where, again, it's one of the biggest changes, but in the negative. And again, if we scroll down, oh, yeah, I did want to point out too. We did reduce our expected cost for garbage and recycling, so that was nice to see.
Yay.
It seems like the whole pickup process is smoothed out a bit. So that represents a $250,000 reduction in expense for,
Just to put a bit on that, 'cause I really didn't mean to highlight that. I'm sure there's here, but it's a very good thing for our public works team.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating from last year and a half ago. One of the bigger things this council did was the garbage contract, right? We spent a lot of time working on that, figuring out how we get our fall costs down. And we set a budget number that was anticipating some savings on that, and public works guys, might have to change it. Actually came in about 400,000 under the reduction that we put in already. Anticipated reduction, and they came in under that. So it's big time savings, and it is a very good example of an idea it happening at this meeting, being implemented by our teams in the field, resulting in some real savings for the city.
So we could hire 2 more public works people, right?
Yeah.
and then machinery and equipment, vehicles, and street light installation repair represent the other big declines year over year. Vehicles, I think, is just, you would expect to get what we've ordered, right? And we had incorporated quite a bit last year at 600,000. And we reduced that by 200,000 this year. We only spent a fraction of that. So those are really the only areas I wanted to call out. Again, not a lot of change year over year, but happy to sort of dive in, anywhere else, on anyone else's behalf here. Or again, these can be shared for folks that want to maybe just take some time to look through these on their.
And you can send this to us, Josh?
Yes. Yeah.
Is there a date by what time, when you think we would be able to access this online?
No. So for you as an elected official, this can be shared now.
Live?
Yes,
Okay, so you will get a URL and we'll get it.
yes, but it's not for sharing generally.
Gotcha, yeah.
It's just for us, it hasn't,
But the ultimate goal is to make it public, right?
Well, yeah, and this page here was an example, and oops. Just an example of something that we might surface to the public, right? That, it's interactive. It would update frequently, just again, to provide high level information, and up to date. But again, this will be something I think we go through a design process and bring back to the council before we actually put it on the website. Just
Very
we want to be careful of before we surface data, we want to be sure that that we trust it, it's been vetted.
I really appreciate this, role. Mr. Morgan and, Mr. Patowski, as well as the mayor, because this is some of the things that we were standing on. I know Nancy and I, because we've been around for a minute, to have, where the people could see actual things happen.
Yeah.
One of my stands was a forensic audit, because in our early tenure, we couldn't see where our money was going, but wasn't nothing being done as well.
Yeah.
So now we can see where our money is going, and we can actually physically see things are happening.
Yeah.
And that helps us with the John Q. public who asks questions and want to know, and they should, because they're taxpayers.
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it sounds corny, but I'm just very proud of the city, and I think when we look at where we started financially.
Yes.
2 years ago, to where we're at
Yes.
now, and it took all hands on deck to get here. It's just, it's pretty awesome. So that's all I had, but do reach out, just let me know if you're interested in getting copies of these to review.
I definitely want it. I'm enrolled. You did a great job. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
A lot of hard work.
Well worth.
I would just like to add, absolutely, thank you to the administration for this, and on top of that, I can't thank Josh enough for this.
Thanks, Cal.
And it's a great part of being transparent.
Oh, yeah, I guess down, I guess down. Well, the problem is it's a dual switched over here.
No, this is great program. Alderman Johnson, I agree, and Alderman Farnwell, and Alderman Rita. It's great to provide a lot of transparency, a lot of questions to be answered just by clicking a button rather than going through page by page. So I 100% support what Alderman Rose brought and put on the table, and I think it's making new history here, because I'm not aware of any town being that transparent and breaking down the budgets like that, so that I applaud you all, you know? Thank you.
I think that Alderman Roll is being a little bit, kind of bashful or not crying or something. But we are benefiting here from something that many other cities are going to benefit from, and we're getting it, gratis from Josh, and, I just can't thank him enough for that.
And Josh, we could sell it to other cities. Yeah, I'm thinking of this marketing, you know.
We. What data work did you do there?
You know, and we should buy you a hot dog and a beer.
No, in all seriousness, I said it last year, it is like having a highly skilled additional member of the staff for free. So it's, we are completely appreciative of it, and it's been a very educational thing going through the process. And it's cutting edge, which, I love working for the city of Blue Island, but cutting edge has not been its calling card. For that. So,
Yeah.
but we're taking it out of a whole new door. So, all right, so that's all I have. I'm just gonna kind of consider this my city administration report for the night. So to that end, next steps here will be the March 27th meeting. There is still plenty of runway here to talk about this. If you see things, if you want to talk about further things. The only other potential kind of big ticket item isn't reflected in here because of very recent conversations is I'm still punching my wet whale on liability insurance. And I did have some productive conversations today. I don't want to promise anything, but if that comes to any kind of fruition where I have a quote in hand before the 27th, obviously we'll have a conversation about it. I think there's enough support for that general idea in the room that should that wind up being something that makes a significant change to this document, that we are able to talk through it. It's not at an advanced enough stage to give you any this or anything yet, though. Okay, that's all I have. Let's look at the questions.
I'd like to just,
Yeah.
Alderman Fairwell and Alderman Raven.
just offer one really constructive criticism, as we move into this year. We're here for 3 years now. And I note that, and I'm glad to see that there's some additional budget being given for various administrative functions, and it's needed. There's areas where we really need to and I think you understand this, but we need to kind of put the pedal to the metal on some administrative issues. I mean, there's little things, like I was talking to Mike about, I've been waiting for street signs to get up, and they really need to get up, and we need our website up, and just a whole bunch of things that I understand why it's, we can only do so much at a time, but I hope that this is gonna be the year that we really get this stuff done.
One comment about the website, on the 27th meeting, in addition to the appropriation, which is the big ticket item for the 27th meeting, we intend to have a proposal from Civic Plus website design. That would be the proposal for engaging with them for website design. There would be then a broader discussion about what you all administration wants out of that website, but just to engage the vendor. So my plan is to hit the ground running as soon as we have the authority to spend on that. I want to do that. I want to incorporate everything Alderman Roll has built here into a public facing part of that. Fillable forms for all of our departments. We got a lot of stuff to do, but we are finally getting to the point where we have the team in place to do it. Okay.
Alderman Raven.
So where is the spending limit on this appropriation?
Spending limit. Again, back to that page, 3, yeah. Total of all city funds, the total expense appropriation, and I do apologize, I should note, I said Alderman Roll some minor changes, and I know it's 3 o'clock today, that didn't get incorporated. I don't know why I didn't get that done in time, but, so there's a slight discrepancy between these total numbers and these total numbers here, but it will all be reflected. But anyway, to answer your question, Alderman, the total expense appropriation is $50,150,372 in this draft. Whatever that number is, total expense appropriation, the total of all city funds will be the total that the city of Blue Island can spend as determined by the individual account. Just trying to answer it succinctly. But the total of all the departments that is allocated money, appropriated money, is $50,106,000.
Right. So is there a budgetary guide?
I don't know if I understand your question.
Okay, so So once, okay, so we're voting on this appropriation, right?
On the 27th.
But that does not give approval to spend it all. So,
No, last year we appropriated 48.5 and we spent 39.
Yeah.
Right, the number right there.
And
well, since now that we don't have committees, can we put maybe a spending cap? Like 5,000 or something to that effect where it comes to the council before?
It's like an operating budget essentially.
that would be the decision of council.
You know, pre-approval before it's spent?
Well, I mean, I would say, I don't know if we put a dollar threshold on it, but as we discussed before, the expense appropriation, the appropriated money to approve doesn't mean the administration just goes out and starts spending that money.
Right.
With everything, you know, bigger than a bread box here, we either put it out to bid, we get, or we try to get 2 or 3 competing proposals as best we can. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But, you know, as that money moves, it moves through council approval spending.
Yeah, it goes through
But we
committee.
usually don't see it till we get to,
No, it goes through committee of the whole. Anytime we have to spend over 20,000, has to go out to bid or get proposals, has to go through committee of the whole and city council. That's legal statutorily. So that's already a thing. Anything over 20,000, any one payment over 20,000 is not a service. Has to get competing bids and have to go through committee and city council approval.
I would caution about mandating competing bids.
So we're at
as low as-
20,000.
That's $5,000, because if you're asking, you will grind your government to pretty slow halt if we're looking for competitive bids every time we need to spend $5,000 on something. And they look at the AP, you can start listing that out and say, all right, you can get a bid for this, bid for this, bid for this. Now, again, for the most part, whenever it's if it's something unusual or new, you know, a landscaping cost is something we know that we have, right? That it's okay, we find, you know, we use a landscaper that we know is reputable, that we know is charging us fair service, right?
Which also went out to bid though.
Right, yeah. Okay, fair enough, yeah, well, yeah.
The mural tonight was over 20,000. I sent it to committee.
Yeah. So that has been our practice, that, you know, anything over 20,000, we bring it to the council. We have, you know, our discussions here. We look to, again, create as much transparency, as much competitiveness and openness as possible. So that has been practice. But yeah, I would say that, as I said, we've had this discussion in the past, the appropriation authority is the authority for us to begin the plans, to get your approval on individual projects as they come, right? But then there is legal authority to spend that money after that.
okay, so what is your process on spending? Who approves it?
We have, well, so
Like
that's,
if a department head comes to you, what's the process?
well,
Because I know what we used to do, but I don't know what we do now.
so if it's everyday expenditures, we have a purchase order system.
Mhm.
Department head submits a purchase order, so whether
To-
to the administration, myself and Mr. Costa. And then, I mean, I don't think we got too many outlandish spending proposals. As we get towards the end of a fiscal year, we might tell you, say, hey, this can wait. You know, or let's find a cheaper version of this, right? Stay within, to stay well within budget, but, so that's been for the day-to-day expenditures. For anything that's larger expenditures, hey, we had a water main break. You know, we gotta get a contractor for that. That would be more direct communication between myself and the department head, standard, whatever that issue is. Right, and then if it's getting to the point where, okay, this is a bigger problem, we need to get some contractors, we need to bid a project that's going to really fix this problem. That's when we're getting competing bids, bringing it to you. Again,
Just give
provide
an
a
example.
sample.
Mike brought us a valve or something for 50, 60 grand and it falls under the emergency. Hey, we gotta fix this. We got a problem. Because of the timing, I sent it to council anyway. Just so you guys were aware that we're spending this money, but we can just spend it because it's an emergency. A valve wasn't working. But we've done that. Anytime we can, we send it to committee, even when we can spend it.
We're not always available to put something off for a month or a month and a half. Sometimes some of those repairs have to be done immediately to keep the city running, so.
Like the
just
one
keep that in
that-
mind.
It's like the one you fixed in my neighborhood.
Right, the sewer system, we
It couldn't-
had to get somebody out there immediately to take care of that sewer.
And that's where his expenditures bounced up besides buying equipment as well. That's much needed.
And in my time here, I can't recall any specific time where any department had made a significant expenditure without approval. So I do feel like internally, communication wise, breaking through the silos, we've had some success on that front, which you're right, Alderman, we have to, we do keep our formal process in place always, but it's helpful when everyone is in the same direction.
There are all questions about the appropriation? Okay, any questions, please refer to Tom and Mark. And it'll be on 20, by the way, it's 26. I don't want to stop you on your roll. 26, March 26th, our next city council meeting. And because it's appropriations, please let me know if you cannot make it. So please, March 26th at 7 p.m. We're approving appropriations. We have to by the end of March. Let me know if you can't be at that meeting. Okay. I move public comment to the end of this agenda. So if there's any public comments, is there any public comment? No? All right, city clerk? All right, city attorney?
No report. We do have an executive session.
City administrators already spoke. Any automatic announcements, reports, or comments? If not, we need a motion to go into executive session. Motion by Alderman Rita, second by Alderman Roll. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, need a motion to reconvene. Alvin, Rose, and Malvern, all in favor, say aye. Aye. We discussed, executive session minutes and litigation. Motion to adjourn. Motion for Alvin Reedus and Alvin Johnson, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Return, and again, please, March 26th, if you cannot make it, please let me know. We need to have at least 5 to pass appropriation.